Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to continue my series of talking about futures bets. I looked on Discord and I realized I told you guys I was going to make a video about JMU, and then I never posted the video. I never made it. I got busy. I got distracted. Other things are happening in the world of sports. So here we are. I took some time today. Make sure I refine my conversation and my talking points and what I want to tell you guys about JMU. So last year, first and foremost, the sportsbook have JMU at 8.5 wins. 8.5 wins is a significant amount of wins, especially for a team that just lost everybody in the transfer portal. At least theoretically, everybody left with Kirk Scinetti, and they went to Indiana. Theoretically. That's what they want you to believe. That's the narrative. And now JMU is coming into this season, and people think, if I can quote them, Rico, they're going to fall off. Well, anybody talking like that doesn't do this for a living. Like, they don't study. They don't do analysis of rosters, if you will. So looking at JMU last year, they were an all-time great team. They did some remarkable things. They went out, beat Bucknell, beat Virginia in a shootout. That's important for recruiting purposes, right, in that area. Beat Troy, another great team. Beat Utah State, a team that can actually score. Beat South Alabama. This is a daunting schedule to start the season, and they got it done. Impressive. 2 weeks to prepare, blow out Georgia Southern, beat Marshall in dominating fashion, beat Old Dominion in a good rivalry game, if you will, beat Georgia State, who had the best team they were going to have in a long time at Georgia State with Granger and Carroll at quarterback and running back. Beat UConn in a huge blowout, and then they go out and lose to App State in overtime. And it kind of lost the aura at that point. They were undefeated. People were talking about, are they going to get a bowl game because they're not bowl eligible, all this other stuff. Well, the minute they lost to App State, everybody just went, oh, they're not that good. App State's amazing. App State is so loaded, it's crazy. And App State, for whatever reason, just doesn't put it all together. But they can jump up and beat anybody. App State's super loaded, y'all. Just letting you know. Looking at the roster, I'm very impressed. Blowing out Coastal Carolina in the season finale, and then losing to Air Force in the bowl game. And when they lost to Air Force, it was concerning because they lost a bunch of players in the transfer portal. So what you see in a bowl game is very indicative of who you're going to be the following season. At least that's always been the case, right? Traditionally, whoever you are in that bowl game, you can look at a bowl game two different ways. It's either the last game of 2023 or it's the first game of 2024. And for me, when I assessed JMU, that was the last game of 2023. Because the team you saw in that bowl game against Air Force is not the team they are today. And a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. You see, in years past, the transfer portal didn't exist. So what you had left after graduation in the NFL and all those things, that's very true. But they actually were able to address their shortcomings, all their departures. They were able to address it in a very effective way. Let's go look at their stats. So last year, Jordan McLeod showed up, former South Florida, Arizona, you name it. Dude's been everywhere. Jordan McLeod played great. 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Kirk Scinetti does this with quarterbacks. And McLeod hit the transfer portal, and he is now at Texas State. Congratulations. Brett Griffiths just transferred in from Wake Forest. His brother, I think, just quit football altogether. So shout out to Brett for being here. The rest of the guys, don't worry about it. Running backs, everybody hit the portal. Every running back hit the portal, essentially. Yep, they all hit the portal. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. They all went to Indiana. Receivers, Elijah Surratt, 1,000 yards, FCS transfer. And they knocked it out the park with an FCS transfer. And that's important that you guys understand how good they can assess the FCS teams. When you see an FCS transfer going to JMU, it's because they knew the FCS really well. So they've been evaluating all the players at the FCS level. So when you see a guy transfer in, like Phoenix Sproles coming over from North Dakota State, or Elijah Surratt coming in from St. Francis, was it St. Francis? I'm pretty sure it was St. Francis. Oh, well, that's not going to tell me it. Where can I look that up? It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it's St. Francis. The point I'm trying to make is, like, they evaluate FCS talent really well. And then Kirk Scinetti and staff leave. So you lose an all-time great coach, and you backfill him with a guy named Bob Chesney. How good is Bob Chesney? Well, I think Bob Chesney's special. When we look at the defense, Aiden Fisher, transfer portal, Indiana. Jalen Walker, Indiana. Chroma, NFL? NFL, pretty sure. Carpenter, Indiana. D'Angelo Ponce, Indiana. Kamara, I believe Kamara's gone. Jalen Green. I mean, these are amazing players, and you're just like, how are they going to backfill this? In epic fashion is how they're going to backfill it. So let's start here. Let's talk about each position group as we can go, and I'll tell you guys how this works. Wide receivers. I'm not that impressed with the wide receiver room at JMU. It looks like a solid room. If I can pull up my rankings and my ratings here, and this is on a scale like a 10 is, Miami. A 10 is Oregon and Ole Miss. But if you're looking at James Madison, JMU here, the wide receiver room is probably the least appealing thing about them. I gave it a 2. And I understand what I'm saying. Like, I really do. Okay? A 2 on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm not impressed. As a matter of fact, there's more talent in Jacksonville State's wide receiver room. They just don't use them. But I'm not impressed with these wide receivers. I also don't think it matters. Excuse me. That just happened. How am I going to get this all back? Well, there we go. Sorry about that, y'all. Sometimes you have mishaps. So I don't think it really matters, right? Hudson's a good receiver coming back. If we can go over here and look at the wide receivers. Here, Hudson was on the chart here. 8 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Not a lot of production, but when I turn on the tape, he's fine. He's a good receiver. I like him. Breon Penny. If you see a guy named Penny in college football, chances are he's from San Diego State, and his brother's Rashad. So Breon Penny, been at San Diego State for a number of years, never really popped on tape for me, but he's in the starting lineup, so shout out to him. Dylan Williams, I don't know who the freshman is. I got to go look him up. I do. I owe a huddle review on him. I got to look. Cam Ross coming in, and I understand that he's been a receiver at UConn for a while. When I look at UConn, some of their best receivers have been gone for the last 2 years now. Some of their best receivers are on other teams. So if you're now the leading receiver at UConn or one of the guys who's leaving, it's like, I know there were better guys. So all in all, it's a little underwhelming for me. Little underwhelming. Wide receiver room. Probably the worst position group on the team, and I don't want to throw any shade at them. I don't want anybody to think the wide receivers aren't any good. They're just not as good as the other position groups on this team. Okay, offensive line is real. Offensive line is good. I gave them a 6. I need you to understand that a 6 at the group of 5 is elite. Is elite at the group of 5. It's so good. So 6 here, 6 at Jacksonville State, 6 at Georgia Southern. Those are great offensive lines. I gave Colorado a 6. Equivalent, talent-wise, it's a 6. Boise State, BYU, Cal. They have an offensive line very comparable to Power 4 teams in the lower echelon, which is good. Good offensive line. They will have a better offensive line than their offensive line will be better than the defensive line 9 out of 10 times. Very good offensive line. Kai Wright, congratulations. Dylan Morris, transferring in from Washington, used to be a starter. I mean, he's actually pretty decent. His arm talent's good. Just hasn't gotten that opportunity to be a leader. It reminds me of, who's the kid who transferred from Clemson to App State? Chase Bryce. Reminds me of Chase Bryce, and Bryce went out there and won 10 games with App State, and he was a former Clemson quarterback, and he transferred from Clemson to App State. That's what he reminds me of, like Chase Bryce ish, right? Running back room, absolutely loaded. Running back room is special beyond belief. Ayo Adehi is the starter, like I predicted 7 months ago. When I told you Ayo Adehi is one of my favorite running backs in the transfer portal, and I thought every team should be trying to sign him, and the recruiting websites try to tell me that Oscar Attaway is a better running back because he's 6'2", 230 or whatever, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They were just on the same team at North Texas. This man averages 7 yards a carry. Back-to-back seasons of just greatness. Ayo Adeyi is a problem. Bad little dude. Trust. Baddest little dude around. I got all the belief in Ayo Adeyi. And the recruiting websites try to tell you, oh, George Pettaway's better. The North Carolina transfer. No shade at George Pettaway. He's not Ayo Adeyi. And Malari over here, Joby Malari, transfer from Portland State. I did a video on him on TikTok about 9 months ago. When he jumped in the portal, he reached out to the channel, asked for a review. His offensive coordinator is in my DMs. We know each other. And shout out to Malari. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that he landed at JMU. That is a big, powerful running back. I believe he looks like a UFL running back. He looks like a UFL candidate. Like one of those guys who's just good enough to be playing football beyond college. Maybe practice squad, maybe goal line, something. But he looks good. And he's a big, powerful man. I wouldn't be surprised if he passed Pettaway on the depth chart. Late signing, and he's got his work cut out because he's a late signing, but he's special, man. Tyler Purdy, that's a Holy Cross kid. So remember, you're going to see some Holy Cross kids on the roster. They are coming over with their head coach, Bob Chesney. Holy Cross, great program. Matthew Sluka and them boys. Holy Cross went out there, and I remember I predicted their performance against Virginia last year. Yeah, MVP should know. I told you Holy Cross was going to beat them, or at least cover the spread, and I believed in everything. Tyler Purdy's the guy. He's a stud. So I like that kid coming in, following his coaching staff. Unfortunately, that running back room is loaded. Not a problem. They're going to run the rock like crazy. Great offensive line, good running backs. Okay. Then we go to the defense. And I'm forgetting where Eric O'Neill's from. Let me think about that. Where is Eric O'Neill from? I gotta right click it. Sorry. Sometimes there's so many people. Oh, that's right, Long Island. So Eric O'Neill has been playing for a really long time. And what you're going to notice on the defensive side of the ball, there is an FCS flavor to it. Because Bob Chesney and his Holy Cross staff know FCS players really well, just like Kurt Cignetti. It's a recipe for success. They got ballers. Okay? Eric O'Neill gets after the quarterback. He's been playing for a long time. I think he's got like 30 games under his belt. Stud. Emmanuel Bush, he was in the rotation, but you got to know what the defensive linemen were on this team last year. They were freaking phenomenal, leading the country in sacks, right? And this is like they could have had Ukwu still on the team, and he transferred to Ole Miss. Like they had an amazing defensive line. They've been doing it. They've been evaluating defensive linemen correctly for a long time, and Emmanuel Bush is part of that assessment. I think he used to play at Marshall. Terry Lockett Jr. coming in was in the rotation at Syracuse, a defensive tackle. Syracuse lost both their defensive tackles. One went to Arizona, and then one came here to JMU. Pretty good. Not the hugest guy. Like Emmanuel Bush is over 300 pounds. Terry Lockett's not that big. I want to point out Chris Fitzgerald over here. Okay, Chris Fitzgerald came in the spring transfer portal cycle, and Chris Fitzgerald is a 5-year player at Youngstown State. 5 years, like he's been a starter for 3 years. 5'11", 300 and some odd pounds. 5'11", over 300 pounds, that's just like a little stump, a tree stump. You ever tried to move a tree stump? It's so impossible. And when I see Chris Fitzgerald show up to the team, and he's listed as second string, meaning he'll be in the rotation, that tells me you got depth. You got depth all day. Okay? Lloyd Summerall at the other defensive end spot, they call it the stud. Lloyd Summerall was at Florida for like 4 years. Then he went to South Florida, and now he's here. It's like 6'6", 240. Incredibly athletic, a ton of potential, and all you have to know is look at the second string guy. That's Kari Mans. Kari Mans, former Maine product, just transferred to Colorado last year. And if you're at Colorado and you're not getting in the rotation, you're second string, you're getting on the field a little bit, and he was in the rotation. But they had Jordan Dominic, right? They had some good edge rushers. But Kari Mans transfers from Colorado where he's probably second string, maybe third string, because they had an upgraded defensive line. And you transfer to JMU, and you're just in the rotation? I'm trying to tell you the type of depth JMU has on defense. It's incredible. It's incredible, the depth they have on defense. Linebacker, Jacob Dobbs. This man has over 400 tackles in his career. Something absurd. This is Dat Win right here. This is an all-time great linebacker who just showed up and is going to wreak havoc on the entire Sun Belt. Jacob Dobbs is going to be first-team all-conference. Jacob Dobbs is him. Raymond Scott transfers in, and this man was at USC for 4 years, 3 years. Was at Fresno State last year. And he's just a part of the rotation. Stud. They'll tell you he's a bust. I don't want to hear it. The depth is insane. Taris Jones, all conference back in 2022. Took a step back last year. But he was all conference. He was all honorable, or all Sun Belt, maybe second team. Chauncey Logan, stud corner. I want to say he was honorable mention, all conference. Opposite of D'Angelo Pons. These are great players. It's crazy the depth they have. Because sometimes I'll come over here and I'll look at these guys and I'll go turn on the tape on Chris Sheeran and I'm like, yo, this man was at Missouri for a number of years before he got to UConn. And he's backing up players. They are too deep at every single position. It's special, man. Terrence Spence can play football. Jacob Thomas is a starter from last year, right? These guys are back. Terrence Spence just came over from Holy Cross with his coach. Knows what he's doing. Ja'Kai Young. These are all, I turn on the tape, and they're not little. They're big guys. They're big defensive backs. Terrence Spence, 6'2", 195, 200 pounds. 6'2", 200 pounds. Ray Williams. How big is Ray Williams? And Chauncey Logan. Let's go. I think Ray's short. So Ray played, Ray's 5'10". I knew it. Played at Howard for 5 years. Okay? But here we go. 6'1", 200 pounds. They have a guy from Tusculum. I want to say that's Jordan Taylor here. Tusculum, played for a long time, got to prove himself. I got it. But when I look at this team, I just go, oh, they're better than a lot of other teams. They got players. They got all conference guys. They got studs. People who have been all conference for their whole career. I don't care what level of football it is. They're good players. So when you see me assess the defense, and I go turn on tape, and I just keep adding numbers, Here, the defense is on the right, by the way, guys. I get to JMU. I give them a 6 at defensive tackle. What that means is, I'm going to give you guys an equivalent. 6 means you are a group of 5 first-teamer. That's what you look like on tape. You look like an all-conference first-team guy. You could also be a returning starter at the Power 4 level. Equivalent. Okay? If you see a 6. And I give the whole defensive line a 6, all the way across. Then the linebackers, I give an 8. An 8 means I think you're an NFL guy. I think your room is NFL worthy, first team all conference, whether that be at the group of 5 or Power 4 level. That's what an 8 kind of signifies. 7 is a returning starter at the Power 4. And you've already heard about the 6. So all the way across the board for JMU, I feel so strongly about every position group. The last time I felt this strong about a team's defense, I'm going to tell you guys this. Obviously there's higher scores. But a team that reminds me is Louisiana, the Raging Cajun. I gave them 6s all across the board. I think I just reduced to 5. I don't remember why. But they were 6s initially all the way across the board at Louisiana. I'm watching tape, and I just go, oh, they just look good. They look good. They look like they got all the right players. They're doing all the right things. And when I give you straight 6s across, that means you got a great defense. That means I expect big things out of Louisiana. Trust me. Alabama got a 5 at corner. A 5 at corner. And I believe in some of their position groups. I give them 9s. But a 5 at corner, because when I look at those corners, I was like, ooh, these are not good corners. So if I'm telling you JMU has really good players, I'm not joking, and I give them an 82.5 on defense. That is very comparable to, obviously, Indiana, who's an upgrade from them because they took everybody. But 82.5, better than Colorado at 80. Right there with Auburn at 85. You got Indiana, 87.5. There you go. Maryland, 81.25. This is how I feel JMU's defense is. And I already told you JMU's offense is running the rock with Ayo Adehi. Get that man 1,200 yards. Dylan Morris, former Power 4 starter at one point. I really like JMU, guys. I really do. And I know Chesney can coach his ass off. So let's go look at their team, their schedule. They open up with the 49ers. Better coaching, better players. Yes, Charlotte has a good defense. They do. They have good size up front. They're building their defense off of SEC cast-offs. So they have huge guys. Their defensive line is huge. I just don't think they can coach. I just don't think that they got it. I don't think they got it figured out. So I like them to beat 49ers, like them to beat Gardner-Webb, whole new coaching staff at Gardner-Webb. 2 weeks to prepare for North Carolina. I don't like it, obviously. Beating Ball State, beating ULM. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins. And then there's at App State. I don't feel good about. At Georgia Southern, looks tough. Okay. I got them at 9 wins. At worst. At worst. So when the sports book has it at 8.5, 9 wins. And it's a value bet. It's plus 128. You're getting positive money on a 9-win season from JMU, and I see JMU winning 9 games. So, and that's if, like, I need you to understand, that's conceding that they're going to lose to App State, Georgia Southern, and North Carolina. That's not asking for too much. Not with this talent on this team. I got them at 9 wins. It's a plus 128. That means it's a value bet. That means for all our value bets, we put 1 unit on it. Give me a second here. I'll show you guys. Bear with me. So here's the chart. All you guys always ask for a screenshot of the chart. The chart's getting so big, I can't fit it in a screenshot. Apologies. But I do have the picture up posted on the Discord server for the MVPs, and here you are watching it on your screen. But I just added JMU to the bottom of the chart. And why is it not a lock, Rico? Because it's a value bet. Value bets are positive. Anytime you see a positive, you go take it. And I believe JMU is on the over here at 8.5 wins. I really like JMU. Yeah, Ayo Adehi, great coaching staff, defense revamped, dominant offensive line. It's just a quality product, and they just look more poised to be better than everybody. I mean, they got a linebacker core you can't shake a stick at, bro. They got a first, second, all conference guys. First and second team all conference guys. They're better than everybody they're facing. So I like JMU on the over at plus 128. Put a unit on it. Remember, you got to spread out your units because the percentages will play out. If we miss on a lock, you're going to be all irate, but the locks are going to hit at a different percentage than everything else. And you're going to be all mad at yourself because you put too much money elsewhere. I'm going to tell you, just the other day, I had an MVP on the Discord server ask about a particular team, and I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm right. That's a lock. Let's go. And that's the way you have to feel about some of these things. He's got to rock with it. He was like, how do we feel about Oklahoma State now? I'm like, I still believe in them. Yeah. So do what you can handle. Be smart. Diversify. And we'll keep track of these results by the end of the season. Yes, it's a tax return. You're not getting paid until after the season. But it's a futures bet. I think it's worth making. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Peace, y'all.